Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the DKM episode. I believe this is episode 56. Thank you for joining us. It's going to be Daniel and I again today. Kenny still hasn't set up his computer, so he needs to do that first. Obviously, he missed playing games on his PC. He missed doing all that. Honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't set up his PC first more like at all because sure, console's easy to set up, but like I prefer gaming on the PC anyways because the library I have on PC is virtually endless compared to what I have on my PS5. But keep up in your thoughts. Send out love to Kenny that you miss him, but he'll be coming back anytime now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his return.
Mm-hmm. So obviously we're in the winter. It's all cold.
It's fucking cold.
Yeah, I think what was it? I think it was last week here in Florida. Central Florida got caked in ice because of the storm or was it earlier in the week? Can't quite remember, but yeah, pretty sure it was earlier in the week where Orlando, no one could really drive on the road because the day prior there was a storm, and then the next day on the Monday it was just super cold, and I think it reached the 20s. So obviously we don't have snow tires, and we don't really have vehicles out there to clean out all the ice to salt the roads. So it was basically like for the majority of the morning it was a get out of work and school card type of thing. But today's also,
because no one would make it.
Yeah, exactly. It's dangerous conditions unless you're walking. Even then, it's still walking. It's still dangerous. But it didn't snow.
I never drove on the snow. Is it difficult, assuming that the roads are like salted and stuff?
Well, if you're driving, in snowy conditions, you need, obviously you need traction, right? So our tires will hydroplane if you brake too hard during rainy conditions, which means that you're sliding essentially because there is no friction because of the water. What was it? Yeah, because of the water. And
yeah, because the oil is in the road, and then later all that water
yeah,
basically treats it as a lubricant.
Basically. So when it comes to snow and icy conditions, you need snow tires. Something that gives you traction even during the snow, because snow is even more slipperier than water. Who would have thought, right? So that being said, you need special kind of tires for that. So not only that, but I believe this is more of a public thing when it comes to like main roads and stuff, like highways and stuff, where it gets salted. What salt does is it helps eliminate the possibility of a road getting iced up. I'm sure that doesn't give you a 100% guarantee, but it helps in some ways. Not every road gets it, just any really main avenues of travel. But when it comes to snow itself, you just gotta like, it's almost like driving almost like in slippery mud. You just can't really be accelerating at high speeds. You can't be driving at high speeds either, because if you do so, you'll lose traction and you'll lose control. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen videos or have experienced a car pile up.
Oh yeah, especially in those like hills and stuff like that. They bombed the hill, and
right.
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario for me. I'm just like, man, if it ever comes to that, fuck it. Either I'm walking or I'm just not gonna go, because fuck that mess, man.
I will say, when it comes to these videos that are it's a snowstorm. It's not like blizzard territory, but it's still like pretty heavy snow, where you can see like maybe 30 feet in front of you, but no more. Obviously, the icy conditions make it hard for the terrain to be, car friendly, but people are still driving at the speed limit, and then they see a car pile up and you hit the brakes. There's not much you can do, so you hit the pile. So
yep.
Here in Florida, we get heavy rainstorms, and it's sort of similar, but idiots tend to put on their hazard lights, which is
it's really stupid.
It's really stupid. I get why you would do that, because more visibility, but that's not right, because during Monday's storm, Sunday's storm, right? Sunday's storm, because it happened all throughout Florida. Well, there was a lot of jackasses on the highway with their blinkers, with their hazard lights on, and well, guess what? One of them almost merged into me because they wanted to make a right turn. I was in the lane. How would I know they want to make a right turn? I don't know. They have their hazard lights on. So yeah, it's dangerous, but I've been enjoying the cold weather so far. I'm not sure if you're if you're
You know
keen
what?
for cold weather, Daniel.
Going back to what you're saying about idiots driving, like, you know what? I've actually experienced something recently, a couple days, actually the other day, when I was driving to work. Some jackass, because I work in the city, and a lot of there's a lot of Uber drivers or people that'll be like, I'm going to stop in the main road right now because I gotta drop off my homeboy here in this building or something. And you think, okay, I'm going to put the hazard lights on so the people behind me or the people who are like pulling up behind me are going to know, like, okay, I gotta either change the other lane or slow down because this car ain't going anywhere. This fucking jackass put his right turn signal on, and he just parked there, and I'm confused. Something like, what the fuck? Because I'm driving, this dude's like a little bit in front of me, and he's like he puts his lights on. I'm like, okay, so I pull back to let him do his little turn, and then later I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. He gets on the right lane and he just leaves the right blinker on, and I'm like, what the fuck are you? What the fuck? Just put on your goddamn hazard lights at that point.
Well, I'm not saying he was right or wrong. In his defense, I've been in that situation where I put on my hazard lights and only one blinker comes on. Well, because my left or my right blinkers don't work.
No, he eventually turned on the hazard lights.
Oh, okay.
But he left the right blinker on for a minute.
That's funny. That's
because I was just confused. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
I will say, this.
But as far as like, how do I feel about the cold? It was kind of cold this morning. In fact, actually, rarely do I ever put socks on when I'm like wearing sandals inside the house. But it's pretty cold in my room actually, and I actually have to put on socks because it's just my feet are cold. Yeah, that's very rare to happen here.
I love the cold. I've been outside all day in shorts and my running shoes because I don't know. I don't get cold that easily, but it's nice. It's very definitely.
You were that cool kid in school that would come in with shorts on and no jacket and be like, "Oh, it's not that cold, guys."
Well, my middle school didn't allow shorts. Somehow my elementary school did, but yeah, I was that one kid that enjoyed.
Did you come with the ice cream cone?
What was funny is I even rode bike to school, so like when it was cold, it was quite fun because obviously wind chill's the thing, so. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy the cold. Whenever I go to an ice skating rink, I don't really put on a sweater.
I haven't been to the ice skating rink since the last time you guys took me, and like, God, I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
With you, I've gone recently, and I'm just chilling with shorts and a shirt. To tell you the truth, I haven't fallen. I'm pretty sure if I fall, that I'll get cold.
Yeah, you're gonna scrape your knees
a bit, but like. I'll take that risk. I'm just gonna scrape. Yeah,
I miss rollerblading.
You're gonna what?
I miss rollerblading. That was fun.
I haven't gone rollerblading in such a while, but I feel like it's not gonna be something like a big difference between ice skating and rollerblading. I just gotta relearn it because it's been over a decade since I've gone.
My memory of when we went to the ice skating ring, I remember we had to borrow the shoes and everything. I never skated in my life, so I tried like using my rollerblading experience and kind of translate it to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that the reason why you definitely don't want to borrow those shoes, man. I remember that when like you get like improper fitted shoes and they rub up against your skin so much.
Yeah, you get blisters.
Dude, there was like I had like a blister that was like big as a fucking grape, dude. It was so bad.
That's why whenever I go ice skating and I rent out a shoe, ice skating, just skates, I always get a size up. Like, not a size up, half a size up, I should say. So, 11 and a half, so I just go 12s.
Shoe sizes are weird. I had to go get some dress shoes, actually. And I normally was an 11, but then I went to a 10 and a half, and then now I go back to a 10, and then I have to flip-flop depending on which shoes I'm wearing.
Oh, that's
why it's not like
that's weird. Actually,
like one size fits. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. Like I can't. An 11 would be too small for me on one pair of shoes, but on a different pair of shoes it'll be too big.
That's weird. I've always 11 and a half has always been like constant with me. The only thing I don't have 11 and a halves are my work boots because somehow they don't they do 10 and a halves, 11, and then from there they start doing whole numbers, no halves. I don't know why, but
no halves.
Yeah, but I will say though I really do enjoy the cold. Given that it's a nice break from the traditional heat that plagues Florida the entire time. Obviously, every year we hear people say, "Oh my gosh!" Like here in Florida, we hear people say, "Look at the rest of the U.S. all nice and cold. Over here, it's just like 80 degrees." woe is us, right? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you say that every year. Yippee. Much like how people say, wow, it got dark so fast after daylight saving times in the fall. Like, yeah, this is normal. Please stop putting it out. It's
Yeah.
obvious.
If you live in Alaska, that's like the norm. You're just gonna be in total darkness for 12 hours or longer.
Actually, no, yeah.
Probably all day.
There are times where in the northern parts of Canada, Alaska, where, or obviously, there's a certain latitude where once it hits winter solstice, sometimes after, you won't see sunlight for more than 3 hours because obviously the rotation and the tilt of the earth. So that'd be pretty sick. Just constantly getting used to the dark. Obviously, you need to take some vitamin D tablets because that's the one thing you'll be missing because the sun is the best source for that. But I
feel like I'd be in my natural element, just being complete darkness for all that time.
True. But for some reason, like, your body knows that it's still like daytime hours, but it's just the sun's not out. Which
That's a good point though. It's just like I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching like all those jail shows and stuff. In jail, do they have like a clock, or they like provided like a time, like an idea to know what time it is during the day?
Well, from what you just said, it's only really telling me that like not too much about the prison system, which is fine. I don't expect anyone to know a lot about it, but like there are many times throughout the day where people do get allowed. They're allowed to be out and about and roam. And there's only a certain amount of
No, we're talking about like county jail. We're not talking about like
even
prison.
even jail. People are allowed to walk around and do their thing because like there are windows in some of them, but yeah, there's usually clocks. There's usually clocks. Mainly, but the inmates really, like, you can't really force them to stay in these close conditions for too long because I'm pretty sure, like, I think the jails here that we have by our area, they do have windows and they do have courtyards, even though they're county jails, not prisons.
Mm-hmm. I guess maybe because I'm just going off of like 60 days or something like that, where it's like, maybe in the television that they're lucky they have, maybe there's like a little clock, maybe like they're watching the news or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured that most of the time you wouldn't be know. I remember I just Googled this and someone on like, I forgot the website name, but basically someone said like, oh, the jails usually don't provide that because it's a form of punishment or this like that, and I'm like, is that technically true? Is that possible?
In a way, yeah, sure. Obviously, we all know about the solitary confinement type of thing, where you're not allowed to leave this area, which is kind of crazy how the human mind works, and the brain works, I should say, and how it begins to crack when under these conditions. I think Michael from Vsauce, he did a 72-hour experiment where he stayed in a lit white room. Well, he was wearing a white shirt and white pants. And he was supposed to be there for 72 hours. Everything else was like either neutral color or white. And he would like try to keep his mind active, try to keep it going. And after the 24-hour mark, things started taking a little bit of a turn because your brain starts to like almost like panic a little bit. And there was a point where, like, he says that he was trying his best to stay there for 72 hours, but if he can't take it anymore, he would just walk out. There was a point, I guess, spoiler alert, that he does open up the door because he had access to open up the door at any time. The only reason why he opened up the door, but he didn't leave, was not because he wanted to leave. It's because he got so, like, his brain got so accustomed to the white room that he even started dreaming about the white room. Like, his dreams were nothing but of that room. So one day he woke up and he thought he was in another dream. So he attempted to open the door, and well, it was real life. And because of that, he realized, oh wait, I'm not asleep. And he continued to stay inside the room for a couple more hours, and then boom, 72 hours were done. And then he explained about his experience. But yeah, solitary confinement really, really affects your psyche really, really like at a biological level, even because it's just stressful. So people who get thrown in there constantly for long periods, that's essentially torture, mental torture, because you just think, oh, locked in my room, that sounds like heaven. But like, you're locked in your room with your phone, with your computer, with your games. Like that's different. Your brain can be stimulated.
You could like go to a different world in those screens, but you have 4 walls, a bed, and like maybe a sliver of a window.
Yeah, and also like no human interaction. Like that's also like a big thing. So what people tend to do, like, to help mitigate their to satiate their, I guess, their thoughts
Insanity.
or whatever, right? They would read, exercise, but that only goes so much if you're like stuck out a week in solitary confinement. It's kind of like that's kind of like a little bit on the crueler side of punishments. But yeah, I don't think I would do too well in solitary confinement after like 5 days, 100%. But yeah, I can only imagine what are the pros and cons on like being homeless versus being a prisoner at this point. Because at least, when it rains, you won't get wet because you'll be indoors, right? I don't know.
True.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to be homeless, but they'd rather not be in prison because of all the cons and stuff. So, yeah.
It's funny because there's actually people out there who prefer to be homeless than actually having, like, to do anything.
Which, speaking...
Because maybe they're...
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. Like, there's actually a group of people out there that don't really care. Like, they're fine of where they're at right now, that they don't really mind not having a house or anything like that.
Which, speaking of, I'm pretty sure you might know this. You might know about this, but like when it comes to like homeless people, but I've dealt with a lot of homeless people. Like I've worked with programs that involved a lot of homeless people, and a lot of them have, like, sure, there are people who have addictions and they're in poverty because of that, and they're still battling their demons. Some people are genuinely like no money and they're just living life. But like in my experience, some of them, a good amount of them, have some sort of mental issues. And the rare ones are like they're happy to be homeless, which I've met like a handful of those kind of people who want to be homeless just to be homeless, not because they hate working, not because they they're lazy, they just want to be homeless, and I can respect that. I can respect that Sugma grind set. Forget the Sigma stuff. I love saying Sugma now. But a lot of people who are homeless have mental issues, and people really think it's like, oh, they don't have money. It's like, no, they really don't mesh well with social norms.
It's like that the thing about people saying that guy in the interview says, like, everybody tells me, like, hey, bum, go get a job. And like, first of all, I'm not a bum, I'm a person, and I'm trying to get a job. Like, he's legitimately trying to go from living in the street to working at a job to get his life together. But in that sort of situation, you're kind of climbing up a ladder without like the first steps, and you have to like jump up to like barely grasp it. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So it's a lose-lose situation at that point. But yeah, and you know what I think the sad part is, I was having you're talking about how like most of them have like mental issues that prevent them from like either getting either getting help or something like that. I was talking about this with a coworker of mine the other day. I feel like it's heartbreaking to see like veterans resulted into homelessness,
right?
Where it's like you fought, died, suffered, got injured, something out of it, and then later for your country, and now you're living in the same country that won't even give you a warm place to eat or sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Right, that's true. Which, speaking of, I like the whole American phrasing of like, oh, you're fighting for our freedoms, you're fighting for our country. Like, oh, I'm pretty sure a majority of 90% of like over 90% of our troops aren't fighting. They're just doing the same old checks and balances type of thing. We're like, hey, we're just making sure commerce and free trade exists, right? So like, a bunch of carriers, like in the Navy, they roam the waters and they allow free trade and commerce to happen, because if not, anyone with a boat and a gun can basically get on any cargo ship and just take it over, and people lose a bunch of money. But like, I've known plenty of friends that they've served in the armed forces, and I'm not trying to be an edgelord here, but like even the ones that did fight overseas, they weren't really fighting for any freedoms. Those freedoms were already fought for here in America years ago. So I get the saying and I get the messaging, but like, it's not truly correct. But when
I guess the way I'm looking at it, it's more like people who like actually face combat. That's the one I'm more like referring to.
Right, I get that. I get that, but like, at the end of the day, like, if you have to ask, like, if they weren't fighting, would you lose a freedom? No, probably not. Like, especially how big America is when it comes to military might. Like, no one's invading America. So, like, they're fighting just to fight, and I won't get into the reasons why they're fighting and all that stuff, but things could get into, like, different discussions. But when it comes to, like, veterans who are homeless, obviously some of them do suffer from mental illnesses. PTSD is one. It's a hard thing to recover for those who actually did face combat. Another one definitely is not knowing what to do, because the entire time they're in the armed forces, they just follow orders and they just do their things, and then when they come out, they really don't have any experience in their own hometown, and they don't know how to get out. They don't know how to get out of the in the environment they're in, so they just end up being homeless. So yeah, being a homeless vet does suck, because after like you've served your country and you're treated in such a way where people are just like, well, sucks, man, but thanks for your service. So yeah.
I can't imagine being a homeless veteran during the Vietnam War and coming back and being called the baby killer for a war that really had nothing to do, that you should never have been involved with in the first place.
True.
And like I can't imagine coming home to that. Like that was so depressing to me.
Yeah, people. This was a very important the very important topic you highlighted, because the Vietnam War was the first war to be publicized, because obviously World War I, World War II, the Korean War, which honestly a lot of people, especially in the Americas, don't know what was the first war to follow World War II. Like immediately after World War II, it was the Korean War that the United States of America was involved with, but it wasn't until like all these wars before the Vietnam War, they weren't publicized whatsoever. Like there was no publicized footage until way after the war was done. So so you got to see like basically the filtered version of war, to a certain degree. But when it came to the Vietnam War, this was the first war that people saw footage basically like
in real time, like it was live.
Relatively real time.
Yeah, that's sort of like the culture shift of that time period, was that you got, the counterculture in America, and then you got all the footage being shown in real time. It's not like super edited. Like if you go to the movie theaters back in the 40s during the World War II, everybody like, hey folks, today the British soldiers have taken on the tyranny in France. Right. Like it was edited and make it look like very like successful, but like in the Vietnam War,
the troops too.
Exactly, it was for morale, but
yeah. And the citizens.
But during the Vietnam War, they would show you in real time, like, all right, this dude just got his head blown off. Okay, that guy got stuck. Okay, yeah, and then it's just like with the cameras, and there's a sense of like, what's the? I wouldn't say pessimism, but there's a sense of like everybody kind of knows, like, hey, this is a fucked situation, but we're gonna kind of make the best out of it. But in war, there's no best out of any situation,
right?
Like, whether you're laughing with your bros, you just realize that, hey, we're gonna die, or we're probably gonna get killed, left, right, and center, in a war that we probably shouldn't even be involved with, and then we're all gonna have to bail out eventually,
Right. So that was and I wanted to bring that up. Obviously, there is no good side to war; it's all bad. And obviously, yeah they did see the.
You mean, you've seen Full Metal Jacket? You saw that movie, right? You saw how like all the soldiers were like, you have a guy who's calmly sitting in a helicopter shooting at innocent farmers as if it was a joke, and nothing like. And the one guy was obviously sick by it. He's like almost wanting to vomit. And then later you get to them landing into one of the bases, and they're like, hey, take a picture with this guy with me. He's my good buddy. And it's a fucking corpse, Like, and then there's that shot where they're playing The Bird is the Word, and it's just this guy with the camera having to follow these guys, and they're making jokes about it. They're like, hey, let's make a John Wayne movie. Well, who'll be the Native Americans? Oh, the Vietnamese will be the Native Americans. Like shit like that,
Which obviously,
and you had like all the graffiti that people would draw on the helmet. It was clearly a cultural thing,
Right. Obviously, I'm not saying everyone was free of sin. Obviously, people in the Vietnam War and any war really, they were like not peaceful whatsoever. They definitely let the power get to their heads, and they did some messed up stuff. Which honestly, like, I'm pretty sure that happened in World War I, World War II, any war prior to that. Like even I'm pretty sure the War of Independence was the same way, because like guess what? People, when they have power, they will like their true characters will come out. A corrupt character will also come out, because you give anyone a lot of power and they're not being checked properly. Guess what? They're going to do some messed up stuff. And that's what we saw the footage of in Vietnam. And that's when soldiers came back, even people who were just mess hall cooks, they were being lashed at. They didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the Vietnam War was a very, very, very big
shift.
Shift.
I gotta rewatch Forrest Gump again. But anyways, in some lighter news, actually, before we get back to the darkness, how have you been, Marcos? Any so far? How's this new year been doing for you, man?
Been chilling, been healthier, a lot healthier. Only
Mm-hmm.
during the weekdays though. On the weekends, that's when I usually like eat wings and other stuff, where like I have a little bit more comfort food without
You know what,
overindulging.
Marcos?
You what?
You know what, Marcos? They finally opened up a Wingstop near my house. We should go eat there sometime because I've always wanted to try Wingstop.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I know the only Wingstop near your place is like prior to the one being built. That one
Mm-hmm.
was rather far. It's closer to me, but like to you, it's a little bit more further. But yeah, Wingstop is good.
It's
I recommend it.
Yeah. I've always wanted to try Wingstop, and now that's officially open, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna take you guys out and let's go eat here one day. But yeah, so well, I asked earlier like how this New Year's doing. My New Year so far this year has been pretty good
Mhm.
actually. As you guys know, for about God, as long as I've been doing this podcast, I've been complaining that I've been working the whole overnight shift,
Mhm.
and I might be getting a new job soon, guys,
Nice.
and it's gonna be great. It's not only gonna be better pay, closer to my house.
Better hours.
I'm gonna get Fridays. Better hours actually. I'm gonna get Fridays and Saturdays off again. I get to leave work on Sunday early, so but I do have to come in earlier though. But fuck it, dude. I get to get out on a Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I still can enjoy my day.
So it's gonna be weekdays except Sundays. Or
No,
weekdays?
I'm gonna be working from Sunday to Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday I'm off.
I see. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So the way how they explained to me is that like, well, we normally make you work from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but on Sundays we want to let people leave early, so you come in at 6 a.m. and then you leave at 2 p.m., which is great for me because I can still go to the Tyler concert if I get this new job. Nothing's set in stone yet, but I'm fairly confident I'm gonna get this new job on by Tuesday. I should know for sure. And man, I'm fucking stoked. I am so goddamn excited. I haven't been this excited to get a new job in forever. Especially like going from like this is the first time I'm excited to get a new job as I'm working still at a job. Because I think when you have a job already, you kind of a little bit more laid back and you don't put as much effort to find another job because at that point you're like, oh, well, if they don't got me, I already got something that's bringing in the bread,
Right, right, of course.
But this is something I've been wanting. It's like checking off everything in the checklist that I want, and I'm so goddamn excited, dude.
I'm not sure what you're going into. I guess we could get this on like a more private chat,
Yeah.
honestly. But like, is there room for like growth in your position?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes, they told me that flat out. Like you're going to be in tier 1, and then eventually you'll get up to tier 2. And what's kind of caught me off guard. Like, this is the first time I ever actually had this asked me in the interview before. The guy who was interviewing me said, "What do you think about moving?" And I'm thinking like, "Well, sir, I live like 20 minutes away from here. I don't think I need to move." He's like, "No. I mean like move around the country."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, well, the good thing is in this company that if you get hired, if we want to give you a promotion, we could let you move anywhere in the country, and
Yeah.
you could pretty much work in that company and somewhere else. And I'm like, holy shit, like I never actually had that question. I remember just being so caught off guard by that, where I just love my response was just like, well, sir, I live 20 minutes from here, I don't think I need to move. And he's like, no,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
like anywhere in the States, son. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess I'd be down for that.
Right.
Fuck, you want to hook me up and make me live in Denver? I'll fucking move to Denver.
Um,
I always wanted to see that spooky ass international airport though.
It's not that bad.
No, but you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
I know what you're talking about, but
With the demon fucking horse and the goddamn painting mural and shit.
Mhm.
You know what the painting mural I'm talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I've seen pictures.
Oh my god, dude, that thing. I remember like I got into for some reason I wrote a paper about that goddamn airport, and it's not even like I believe in most of that crap, but dude, I remember one time for shits and giggles, I put that mural, the one with like the army guy, and then like on the left side, that's where all the kids are on the side,
Yeah.
and the army guy's dead, so you can interpret as that like, oh, he was evil and now he's slain and now there's world peace, or you can interpret the other way around where it's like there was world peace and now there's evil, which that's what
Yeah.
makes it so fucking terrifying. Dude, I remember one time it scared the shit out of me. I put that mural as my wallpaper on my computer just so I could like focus on like doing the paper for that classwork assignment, right? And I remember I turned on that computer one day and I saw that mural pop up in front of me, and something shook me in my fucking core that scared the fuck out of me, dude. Something about that image just coming up on my computer screen just made me feel so like freaked out about it, God, it was
okay. That's so weird.
dude. No, it's just you know what I think it is, dude. You know what I've been really fascinated with lately, dude.
What?
Have you heard of analog horror?
Yeah, yeah. I've been.
Oh my God,
I've been on that for a while. It's so
dude,
funny.
I love it, dude. I finally got into the well, for the audience who don't know what analog horror is, Marcus, do you want to give an explanation? You're probably better at this than me because you've probably been.
Well, when we're talking, well, here's the thing though, and this is just me being
Mm-hmm.
like, I guess, what's the
A
word?
stickler.
Yeah, stickler for it. I guess there's like different eras of it.
Yeah, let's clarify. It's not found footage. We're not
Right.
talking about found footage movies. There is some bleed over it, but it's not exactly the same thing.
Right, and the only reason why I like analog horror, other than the aesthetic reasons, I just like it because it's mostly either grayscale or like very, very, what's the word, opaque colors, like very, like not strong.
Analog color.
Yeah.
Where-
So for anyone who doesn't know, I think the name is based off like VHS tapes type of stuff. So obviously we have digital
Yes.
media where everything is either digitally downloaded or even DVDs, right? But VHS are, well, analog, and analog was just an old school way of recording stuff, and it was more physical. Analog horror is just basically the reason why I wanted to point out eras and genres is because found footage is that where you find a lost footage, you find something lost. A lot of video games take place like that. It's like, hey, I found this game, let me go play it. Like Sonic.
the spooky creepypastas, the
Right.
Sonic.exe.
Right. So creepypastas do fall under into some form of analog footage, but I mean analog horror. But analog horror is just basically a horror that represents a otherworldly creature in the form of like a tape, a VHS tape or something, but then this tape manifests itself into the world. The only analog horror that a lot of people understand because it got popular in the mainstream is stuff like The Grudge or The Ring, because that technically is analog horror. You see a VHS tape, you see something, and then the demon that curses that footage is now onto you. Then there's also the whole skinwalker thing where you're in the forest, you see a video of a forest, and then there's skinwalkers walking around. But yeah,
Yeah.
And-
But in this case, we're talking more about like the internet style
Right.
of analog horror.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, I get where Marcus is coming from because it's just like the idea of The Ring and this, the Blair Witch Project was that this was a found videotape that's meant to be fuzzy and fuckery and things like that. And there's like that sense of like, because it's an analog format, you could kind of tell that it's more susceptible to get like fucked with more often. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a good example was like one night, the other night I was driving to work and I was feeling nostalgic and I put on that, that song that plays in the end of The Shining, Midnight,
Yeah.
Midnight with the Stars and You and shit. There's something about that song when it's like not as clean as it sounds and everything sounds so like old and worn the fuck out. It's just something, that kind of sense of like dread, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, especially
So,
if you put the whole a lot of people
The
have,
song in the context, especially
Yeah.
with the fact that they got that shot of Jack Nicholson in that fucking painting, and I always like it whenever I watch that movie, people are like, "Wait, what does that mean? Does that mean that he went back in time? Does that mean that he's stuck in the hotel?" And that's what made it so fucking spooky, because it was a song that played during a New Year's party that Jack had no reason to be in, but he's still in the fucking painting.
I will say
or
though,
in the picture.
with a lot of these like great movies of the 80s, 90s, 70s, like, okay, Silence of the Lambs, for me, as well as I get why it was popular. I just don't think it's like the best movie out there. That's it with The Godfather. The same thing with The Shining. Like, narratively speaking, I'm just like, okay, it's all right. Aesthetically
Yeah.
though, that's something different, right? The Shining.
Oh yeah.
The Shining aesthetics, like and the choreography and like everything about it is great. Like I like the visuals, I like the music, I like the everything. One thing I've always loved about the Souls series is like, hey, you hear no music until you fight a boss. Everything else is just silence except the sound of your feet and the enemies lunging at you in your attacks. So one thing I liked about The Shining was it's just a simple, it looks like a documentary, typical basic boring documentary, and then out of nowhere there's an artistic shift and everything. It's like narratively it doesn't make any damn sense to me. I don't care, but like choreography, it is like it is great.
You know what? I think to add on to that, it's like the fact that in Dark Souls, you could literally go from one area to another, like literally step over an area,
Right.
and it's like Miyazaki put a completely different color filter in it. Especially if you go like to Blight Town, and then from Blight Town you go to Los Izalith and things like that. And it's like he's literally swapping the filters in real time. Like there's a point where you open up the door when you're in the fucking sewers on the Undead Berg, and then you're going to Blight Town. Literally, when you open up that door and take 2 steps forward, a completely different color filter is over the screen.
100% agree. But you, at least a lot of people understand where I'm coming from with this. Like, I really don't think The Godfather is like the best films out there. Especially the first one's obviously the better one. But like when it comes to like,
well, I've always heard that the second one was considered like the best of the trilogy. But yeah, the first one is definitely considered like a all-time classic.
right?
But the third one is. Yeah, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, narratively speaking, like, I don't really care. I'd rather watch Goodfellas or any other mafia movie.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Because the narrative there is a lot more human. But The Godfather does.
I think the way. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I don't mean to
No, go
interrupt
ahead.
you. I guess it's sort of the same way. Like, there's people like my film teacher, for example. We were talking about how like we first saw Raging Bull for the first time, right?
Okay.
And Raging Bull, you've seen Raging Bull, right?
Only clips. I've never seen the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's been since high school I've seen it, but I still vividly remember it. I remember asking him like, "Well, what would you say the difference is between Rocky and Raging Bull?" Rocky is a movie about achieving a goal and testing yourself to go above what most people would think you could do. Raging Bull is admitting that you're a piece of shit of a person.
Right.
But you're going to try to make the best out of it. And eventually, like, the main character, I forgot how it ends, but I remember that, like, the main character eventually gets fat. He gets arrested because he had sex with a girl or something. It turns out to be a minor or something like that. It's been years ago. But it's more of, like, not a movie where, like, all right, the main character's going to, do a 180. He's going to get, he's going to do the right thing. Like, nah, the dude's a piece of shit. He's just, like, living with it,
At least that's the human aspect of it. Because obviously...
Exactly. It's more human.
Obviously, the
right.
Rocky one's supposed to be more like a hero type of film where you're like
the underdog, yeah.
Yeah, underdog becoming like this big champion and stuff. Like that's typical. But I will say, though, that when it comes to, like, these old classic movies, it's more of an art to me, more than anything. Some of them do the narrative part well, but like when it comes to the actual like just choreography and everything, it's classic. It's timeless. It's nice.
I think what it is too is that The Godfather was sort of like a big deal because it was one of the first like crime family movies that was like, really legit, and it has like a more of like a historical aspect to it. I'm not saying that it automatically translates this into an untouchable film, but it is something that people, I admit, I've only seen The Godfather, I think, like once or twice in my lifetime, but I will admit that it is definitely a longer burn of a movie. I think as like the older we get, I think we're a little bit more pushed back against like super long films unless it's a superhero film for some reason. Like, remember when The Irishman was coming out and like people were complaining on Netflix, so like, oh, it's too long. Well, I figured out a way how to watch it like a TV show, and I'm like, I guess, but it's a film. Like, it's meant to be watched all in one.
Is The Irishman that one? I think I might know which one you're talking about. Was that?
It's the one with Scorsese. It's the Scorsese film.
Wait, that doesn't help me out actually. So, is that the one where like a lot of these people view it like almost like Fight Club esque? You know what I'm talking about? Where like it's like there's like
it came out in 2019 with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Joe Pesci.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I have seen.
Is it a Netflix film or is it? Yeah, it is a Netflix film, right? Yeah, it was. Okay, it was. I was thinking that like, oh, eventually Netflix is gonna get rid of this movie for some reason, or like a bunch of other Netflix originals, quote unquote.
Right. I will say though, I guess maybe we can put this into more of a perspective where you and I can definitely disagree on, because obviously you view this differently than I do. When it comes to like Evangelion, right? Like artistically,
Okay.
I love the art style of that era because it's just a generational thing, right? If you grew up with that stuff, you have a more of a love for it, right? I love the art, I love everything about it, but when it comes to the narrative, obviously the narrative in and of itself is kind of like not the most like, it's a bit confusing. Like, if you first watch it, obviously it takes time for you like truly break it down. But like when I watch Evangelion, I mostly just hit it for the narrative stuff. Not the narrative stuff, but like more of the aesthetics. Same thing with what's this movie called Akira, right? Akira was like I mostly like the whole the future vibes, the cyberpunk vibes, right? The
Yeah.
narrative isn't really the reason why you go for it, but like the fights are there, the chase scenes, the everything, the atmosphere. I mean, that's cool, but like the narrative isn't the strong point. Like we have to admit
Yeah,
that.
you're actually not that wrong. That's actually what my opinion of Akira is in a nutshell. Like whenever people talk about like how good Akira is and like how groundbreaking it was for like for an anime, and especially at that time with that kind of budget and this and that and all this effort into it, I 100% agree. I cannot agree with the narrative because I think everybody agrees with me that for what we have, and God forbid if you only watch the English dub because it's only going to make it more fucking confusing.
Yeah.
It's really not that, how would I say, groundbreaking. I wouldn't say like it's a storytelling narrative phenomenal, but from an animation standpoint, that's what glues me into the screen. Like that's what makes me want to watch Akira, because when I watch Akira, I want to see cool fucking setting, cool fucking animation, and just, you know, see shit blow the fuck up, you know.
Of course.
As far as like the narrative and what the themes and things like that, look, the way I look at it, this was a movie that is based off of a 4-book manga that wasn't even finished yet, and they kind of have to piece it together before the film was even out yet. Now, I've always heard rumblings and rumors that they're going to make like an Akira TV show that's supposed to be like, you know, the one-to-one from the manga translation, but from what I've understood, that either because the budget is way too goddamn expensive, which I don't blame you, this is like one of the most expensive movies ever made,
Right.
to get a TV show, obviously the first thing people are going to say, like, well, the animation doesn't look as good. Well, yeah, this show probably has like 1/10 of the budget, so can you really blame them?
Yeah, it's the same people who complain about like when a TV show comes out because it's based off the movies, is like it's not the same. It's like, yeah, of course, Kung Fu Panda TV show isn't gonna be the same as the movies, dude. It's different.
Oh, it's like when you watch like the Disney sequels.
What do you mean Disney? Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
like,
see what you mean.
I think what bothered me the most is that handful of them actually did get like theatrical releases and not just straight to DVD. So I think like at that point, if you're gonna bother putting it on theaters, you would assume that they would put just a little bit more effort in the animation. But that's why, like, I think only a handful of the Disney sequels actually got released in theaters. I know the Peter Pan one did, and I think Aladdin did, like the Return of Jafar. But let's be honest, though, Return of Jafar was basically a pilot for the Aladdin TV show.
I was not even aware of that. But now I know. Here's one thing I will say about like some movies that like sure the narrative isn't really all that, like, I guess it's not all there, but you need to like piece it together. You need to like get really, really into it. And have you seen the new Matrix film?
Not yet.
Okay.
To be honest, though, dude, I've seen the first Matrix movie like 4 or 5 times in my lifetime. I have yet to see a single sequel from it.
Well,
I
I'm not gonna spoil anything, right? But I kind of want to watch it kind of again. I didn't watch it through official means, if you get the hint. So
Yeah.
So that's why I want to watch it again, but like obviously on the big screen. So one thing that the movie's great, I won't spoil anything, but when it comes to narrative, like if it gets you thinking, if it gets you like holy crap, like this is good. Like one thing I liked about the Joker is like obviously the music, the score was decent. I really liked it. The movement, the pacing was good. I felt like there were some plot holes here and there, but the ending could be up to interpretation. Was everything in his head at the end? Was everything like actual real? Like everything did happen? Like it's
wait, we're talking about the Joker, right?
But I'm transitioning over to the Matrix, where first, basically the first third or the first half of the movie, like it really, really, really made an amazing, groundbreaking philosophical move into a movie where you're like, damn, this is interesting. This is a very interesting point that was just pointed out by the characters in the movie. Everything after that point is just like, you had an amazing plot here, a plot device, and you just discarded it just for fight scenes. So the new Matrix film, I liked it. Not the whole thing, because everything else became like a generic fight scene, almost like a Shonen type of thing. But like it, like the movie itself at the very beginning, you're like, this plot is amazing. This plot is like, wow. and then it goes downhill from there. So like, yeah, that's all I have to say for those who haven't watched it, and I'm sure those who have watched it, leave your comments down below if you know what I'm talking about. Because like if you really look into the narrative, yeah, it's nice, it's interesting, and then generic stuff. I don't know what happened. I really wish they kept this momentum going with the philosophical side of the things, which not a lot of movies
well, I haven't seen any of the sequels, and I've always been told that like by Matrix Reload they kind of dropped the whole like philosophical conversation that the first movie was having, because like that was sort of like the thing that most people kind of overlooked about the first movie, was that there was a little bit more of a discussion piece about it,
right?
Like, what is our reality? How do you interpret reality? Da 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 da. You know, things like that,
right?
And everyone always told me like, yeah, by like Matrix Reloaded, they kind of just like said fuck that noise, and then
well, they brought it back at
Morpheus
the last one. In the last movie, they brought back all the philosophies and stuff with the architect.
But like, but did they do it well though? Is the question.
Well, yes, and not as good as the first one, but it made you question the trilogy as a whole.
They made an attempt, at least.
No. Well, is that an attempt? Like how, like when they go into the deep questions, like what is actually reality? How do you define it? Yada yada yada. Right. The third one doesn't go into that hard of philosophical terms. It goes harder it goes in its own way. Basically saying, how do you know what you're doing is right? Like things that really question their motives. And then at the end, the architect says, well, this isn't really a spoiler, but the whole movie, even since the beginning of the first film, the Oracle even says the second movie, I think, or the first movie, I can't remember, where the Oracle, the black lady, says, you're not the one is my son, and you're not my son. And people just assumed she was wrong or something, but no. Then in the third movie, the architect, the one where we get those TVs, like a room full of TV screens, which is another big staple in cinema history. He says, you're not the one. You're actually a virus. The one is the one that you've been fighting the whole time. The dude in the suit.
Oh yeah.
So
the twist.
Yeah, yeah. So like things like that, you're like, oh, well, damn. So things like really like took a turn with the third movie, because like people started questioning like reality itself. So like the architect says, look, 100 people get put into the Matrix, and about 95% of people are happy with the Matrix. The other 5% want to live in some sort of agony. The Matrix first started off with the original like Matrix, like the design started off with you being in paradise. The thing is, humans rejected it. They didn't want paradise. They wanted conflict. And what was that conflict? What we're living now. Our day-to-day lives, 9-to-5 jobs or whatever jobs, going out to eat, going out to find food, doing whatever, right? Basic mundane things, playing video games. Like, humans prefer that over paradise. And that's what the robots found out. The robots found out that humans, the majority of humans, rejected paradise, and they preferred a basic mundane lifestyle. But then in that small little freaking in that big group of people, there was a small few who wanted to rebel, who did not want it and wanted conflict. So in the third Matrix movie, that's what he said. He brought out, I was like, isn't that interesting? Even though you got exactly what you wanted, what you desired, which was paradise, you still rejected it. So like it was interesting. And even at the end said, like, you're still in Matrix. Even if you get out of this Matrix, you're 3 layers in. Once you break out of this Matrix, you're going to be 2 layers in. You got to break the other 2 layers, dude. So yeah, it was nice. I like it when philosophy gets thrown into movies, and it takes time or maybe a YouTube video for you to find out, like, hey, like what is the real like narrative plot of the movie, but and like,
hey, what's up, guys? My name is Pepper, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a film analysis video. We're gonna talk about that, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I'm glad these channels exist so people can like really understand like the true narratives of the movie, and then when they rewatch it, they can appreciate it more. You know what I mean?
Very true. Very true. For better or for worse, I think like that movie, when going back to like The Shining, that room 247, whatever the fuck that was, that was a documentary that I think I would have liked a little bit more if it was better done. Because some of the fucking theories that these guys make are beyond ridiculous. Like, okay, the whole moon landing thing, I'm okay with that one. I'm okay with some of these things, but some of them is like, did you know if you watch the movie frame by frame, at exactly this moment, you will see Stanley Kubrick's face painted on the clouds? And it's like, I don't really see it there.
I guess people
that's a bit of a reach there, Chief.
They're just fishing for content at that point, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I do like when like genuinely like, hey,
like I remember this one part of the documentary. I got so fucking annoyed. Is like there's a kid crying in the background, and like the guys like talking about like, so yeah, as we get to this clip, and the guy literally goes, excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry, did you hear my kid? I'm sorry, let me go take care of it. And that's in the runtime, and I'm like looking around like, what the fuck? Why did you just cut this shit out? What are you doing?
It's part of the whole conspiracy, man.
It was so aggravating. But you know what's funny? We went into this whole tangent, and we like forgot that we were talking about like analog horror earlier. And I was just gonna say like the one I got into recently, actually this morning, and man, I gotta stop watching spooky shit when I'm about to go to sleep, because then I'll just be like, what if these things that I'm watching might go after me eventually?
That's the problem that people have. I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm scared of what's in the dark. I'm like, dog, just like you lived your whole life. The darkness existed, and it's only now that you're afraid of the dark because you started thinking about what.
It's not that I'm afraid of the dark. It's just that, like, okay, so the one that I saw recently was the Mandela Catalog. Okay. Did you watch that one?
No, I heard about it.
It's really good. It's fucking terrifying. And here's what I noticed about analog horror that I think I figured out, like an internal fear that I have. I think I have a fear of really weird, obscure faces. Like really over exaggerated, like human faces.
The
like
troll
just
face.
getting
Got it. Yeah.
Kind of like that, like, you know, like Germa's face, you know, that meme and shit. Yeah. You know how like people take it to like to the umpteenth level, and you get that weird feeling like this is some like uncanny valley bullshit. It's kind of like that.
We're not talking about the Charlie Kirk meme where every time a new meme of his comes out, like people make fun of him or something, they make his face smaller. No, we're not talking that type of thing. We're just talking about like obscured, dysmorphed kind of face that still resembles a human, but it's like.
Yeah, like, you know how like when the Titans were first shown off in Attack on Titan, people thought they were really, you know, things like that. But that's a Titan, you know, that's meant to be like, okay, but what if someone's at like a human size than you? Like, imagine you saw like someone with a really disformed face, like right across the street from you, and they're looking right at you. You know,
I see what you mean. Yeah. That puts a little poop, like a little poop turd coming out of my butthole type of feeling. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna feel like, man, my pocket sure got a lot more heavier all of a sudden.
I will say, I know what you're talking about. Like, what's that one famous like web horror comic? It almost looks like a Korean manga type of thing, but it's like,
oh, the one with they add the sound effect of the lady, screen automatically.
Yeah, the lady looking at you and stuff.
Oh my god, that was so fucking terrifying.
Where like you're just some dude was like using his telescope or something, and then how does it go? Let me try to remember. Some dude was just looking out of his balcony. I think he had a telescope or something, and he was just looking around the neighborhood, and then he saw some rustling happening in an apartment building like across the street, and then he was looking at that one room, and then he realizes that someone died. Someone just got killed. But then the person who did the killing immediately just locked eyes to him, and then basically started running after him, like jumped, like did unhumanly things, and then their eyes was all blacked out. So he started running away. He thought he managed to get clear, and then when we see the sidewalk, the lady's there, and I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about though. When it comes to that,
I think and going more into like the analog thing, and with the Mandela Catalog, it's just kind of like really like creepy thing about like body doubles, and like how there's like a copy of you that will kill you, and you can't kill them, you can't engage with them because there's no way in hell there could be two copies of you and stuff, and like your clone is like this disfigured fucking god. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because that's just a scary thought that like right down that door there could be a person that looks exactly like me with big ass bug eyes, big teeth and things like that, and he's just like, can't kill me, but if I open my eyes, he's going to be there. And the only way I could get rid of it is if I kill myself, essentially. Like, that's actually what the protocol is to do if you encounter one of these people. Another form of analog horror that I really like a lot. I tweeted about this earlier where I said, like, I'm really happy that the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is kind of back on the mainstream. I don't know if you noticed about this, Marcos, but, like, Five Nights at Freddy's memes are kind of back in stock. And, you know, people are...
But everyone kept
talking about this franchise.
Gregory.
My fastballs are out.
I love the Gregory. How did Lamar's rant go? But instead of that, it was just the Freddy saying is like
Glamrock Freddy. Yeah, like maybe we didn't get that yee ass haircut, Gregory. You might get Roxanne's bitch.
I love it. Yeah,
Gregory, I need you to go into Roxanne's room to get her OnlyFans.
Yeah.
We needed to get you out of the Pizzaplex.
I will say though, yeah, I'm happy for the creator too, because like obviously Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, he's now retired. He's
Right.
not. He's not.
Right, but even then, like the man made an indie developer made mad money for that, and that's what.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that was like his last shot in the dark for like success as a game developer, because the guy had like a massive catalog of games that just never took off.
All the more reason why content creation is very, very important to any industry, really, because one, you get advertisements, right? So like you live stream a game, and that gets attention to your game, and then two, like I mean, you look at Among Us, dude. Look how that game pops off, but like. This dude's game really popped off when Matt Pat from Game Theory covered it, and he's like, "Dude, this game is nice," and then the game is on the surface basic. It's whatever. It's fine. You just got to be fast reflexes. You got to memorize certain things, and that's fine. But when you do things in a certain order, the real narrative shows up, and you got to start digging things, and then that's when people started getting interested in games like this. Oh, they were getting a lot more interested in games like that, where it's like, hey, it's just a basic game at the surface, but the narrative goes so much deeper. The iceberg, that's what's been getting a lot of popular recently. The iceberg.
Oh, iceberg explained videos. Yeah, I love those. So love.
So
I could binge watch all those easily.
Right, because like you like there's so much information that you don't know because you're not into it. Like the same thing could be done.
The first one that really kind of took off, that made it sort of like a genre though, was actually the Super Mario 64 iceberg.
Yeah, and well, especially when like if only you know like how deep that game goes and like everything went into it. So yeah,
every copy of Mario 64 is personalized, like wet dry world, mental exhaustion thing. And,
right.
It's one of those things where it's just like. Is it, man, like, yeah, even as a kid, I always thought Wet Dry World looked kind of weird to me. Like, because let's be honest, though, when we all played Mario 64 and we all saw that sunken city, we all were curious. Like, what the fuck is up with this city?
Right.
Like, this is, like, way too look like a human structure lived here. Who the fuck lived here? This is some, like, Dark Souls-ass exploring an abandoned fucking part of the map kind of bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but that's, like, you wanting to look deeper into things that aren't really there sometimes. But that's why I liked the Five Nights at Freddy's, like, thing. Like, obviously, it was cringy because, children find a way to make things cringy, period. Right? So, like Undertale had a narrative, but it had a deeper narrative outside of like the main game, but it wasn't like too deep. It was there if you found it, but so I'm glad Matt Pat exists because he made Five Nights at Freddy much more popular than one would have already where in the world where he didn't cover it, it wouldn't be as popular.
I would argue more that it was actually Markiplier that really kind of
true.
Because to be fair though, like what most people always forget is they're like, oh my god, Matt Pat does all these game theories about Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, yeah, no fucking shit. It's like telling someone like, hey, that successful thing you're doing with your business, fucking stop that, because I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. What the fuck? That's fucking stupid. That's not how this works, genius. Secondly, it was because he didn't initially wanted to do a Five Nights at Freddy's video. Originally, he made a poll, which I'll always bring this up. He was asked, do you want a Five Nights at Freddy's video or do you want a Slenderman video? And people voted for Five Nights at Freddy's. And oh, look at that. Now he gets paid to talk about it.
Right, but I wanted to make that clear when it comes to like the Markiplier thing. I agree with you. But what I mean by Matt Pat, I'm not saying that he made the game blow up. It's just that genre of like there's a deeper meaning in the game itself that that you're missing. Markiplier, 100%, he was a lot like Matt Pat, but Matt Pat was in his own field because obviously he does game theory stuff where he dives deep into every little thing he does, and which is cool. Markiplier takes his casual approach, and obviously he gets deep into it. We all know the whole "was this the bite of 87" meme that Markiplier had, right? Yeah. No, I completely 100% agree with you. I just feel like Matt Pat had a more of a hey, you guys should really check out this game because narratively speaking, you guys are missing out. Because
I think what it's just really funny though is that when you do watch that old Matt Pat video about like the first Five Nights at Freddy's theory, a lot of people might find it in poor taste because like how he connected it to like an actual real murder. But in my defense though, it was the first game.
Yeah, right.
Like the thing is about like the story and the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, I feel like that up to 3 it was pretty much clear cut, right? You had the first game that set the groundwork, like okay, now we want to make it in 1987, so we got Five Nights at Freddy's 2, we know who the killer is, okay, now we got the third game and we found out what happened to the killer died, I think when the fourth game came out and they tried to explain more shit and it just confused everybody a lot more, it became more of an aggravating piece of the lore puzzle, you know what I'm saying? And then later earlier, we got Sister Location, and then I think by Five Nights at Freddy's 6, if you couldn't finish it with 3, if it finished at 6, lore-wise, I would have been more than complete. We got everything for the most part answered, and we already got like a form of closure for everybody that got involved in the story. But we kept going, and then we got Security Breach with, if you want my honest opinion of Security Breach, as much as I like aspects of it, I don't find it at all as a horror game.
Yeah, it's a change of the formula. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's not just it's a change of the formula. It's just not scary because the environments are way too bright. Everything's too goddamn lit up. Like, you could easily make walking around in a mall really fucking terrifying. But when everything is so bright and lights are on and color, like, dude, have you ever like walked around in a mall when you're all by yourself and you get that uneasy feeling that there's someone always watching you or something like that?
Sorry,
like,
no.
That could have worked.
I've never had that feeling. I'm a weirdo. I'm sorry.
No, I get you. I understand. But, like, I think that if you, like, did the game like that instead, I think it would have been a little bit better. It's just kind of crazy. You hear, like, all these people that really hate the new Security Breach. And, like, I think it's actually the lowest rated Five Nights at Freddy's game as far as Metacritic score.
Yeah.
And I've heard some really crazy shit. Like, even people within the community are saying, like, this is, like, the worst fucking game. And it's going to make me stop getting into the franchise. I just only hope that... My only thing I'm only asking for post Security Breach is that if they're going to keep on the Five Nights at Freddy's thing, they got to keep it like either its own continuity and not acknowledge like the other games at that point. Because I think that's the only way you're really going to like make this franchise keep going.
True.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't want to get into that tangent about Five Nights at Freddy's and the lore. So I just want to go ahead and finish up wrapping up my other two favorite analog horror films, show or online YouTube stuff. I like this one a lot called Scrimus McGrimus, I think the person's name was. He made they made a VHS series called Five Nights at Freddy's VHS. And dude, like, if you actually want to get like actual spooky shit, like maybe you're not a fan of the gameplay loop, but you actually want to get that kind of uneasiness in the Five Nights at Freddy's lore,
right.
Not lore, I would say more like the setting and stuff. I recommend you look into the Five Nights at Freddy's VHS series. Like, that person knows how to get like the horror of Five Nights at Freddy's, but in a VHS analog format, and it makes it really really uncomfortable, you know what I'm saying? And another one that I like that's similar to Five Nights at Freddy's is the Walton Files. Similar concept. Dead people get put into animatronics, but the fact that there's so many ways of forms of media, like at one minute it's a cartoon, then another minute it's an informational video, and then another minute it's like a first person thing, and then there's live action, it makes it like really good. And what I also like about it is that the way how you have to like interpret the lore and figure out like what exactly is going on and why is happening, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that kind of shit,
Yeah, I get that. And one thing I've always did enjoy about certain YouTube channels is that they'll take certain like non-copyrighted music and they'll set up pictures in the right order. They'll read things in the right way. They'll set everything up where it does feel a bit more like the atmosphere there is more relatable, more like you can dive into it. Instead of just someone just reading off a script saying like, hey, this is what happened, yada, 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 right? You're like, you'll get the narrative, but you won't feel... It doesn't feel real. It just feels like
it's kind of like when you go play the like Sonic.exe game, and it's like they're playing like recognizable video game music. It's kind of take you out of the story or the experience, because all the things like, why am I hearing Earthbound music in the Sonic horror game?
Right, and that's something that could break your immersion if you know about like where some music's come from. I will say though, like. Coming around from this whole analog thing, like a good amount of the creepypastas and analog horror that I like is basically like SCP, because that obviously blew up in its own thing, and I really, really, really enjoy SCPs and certain like horror scenarios. Like there are very, very, very few SCPs that everyone like just knows about when it comes to just dealing with SCPs, where there's over 4,000 SCP entries, but like only like 30 of them are like truly like the big ones. One of them that will always be my favorite is just thinking about the scenario. Like, obviously I'll be dead in the scenario, but if I was lucky enough to not be dead in the scenario, how would I go about it? I'm not sure. The one is 001, when daylight breaks, when the sun just out of nowhere turns on, and if you get hit by any form of sunlight, you start melting into this goop of flesh, and you become like your goop of flesh becomes sentient and other groups of flesh start merging together, and you just basically become like almost like a hive mind. The thing is, you like this hive mind retains your memories. So like, let's just say, I don't know, Daniel, like, you're at your house, you're locked up, you know you can't touch the sun, but then I end up going to your house saying, "Hey, Daniel, it's me, Marcos, dude. I'm your boy. You should come outside, dude. Everyone's here." Like, I know it looks bad. But like, it's not. We're all together. We're all enjoying the glory of the sun. The sun is like happy for us, right? And I won't sound like how I'm sounding now. I'm starting to sound like a little bit more gurgly, a little bit more like wet the way I speak. But like, it's not me. It's just my memories being used to get you out, type of thing. And if peaceful ways doesn't work, well, they're gonna break everything down and force you out. So yeah, it's
it's one of my favorite things in horror, where it's just like, I hear my mom at the door, she's calling my name, but that can't be my mom because she died a week ago. So why do I hear her voice? You know, things like that.
Right. And I'm so glad, like, when it comes to memes, I love all the Skinwalker memes, which sort of fit into this whole thing that we've been talking about today. Skinwalker means about like people impersonating, or with the Mandela effect as well. Skinwalkers like being beasts that can mimic voice and mimic the shape of people, but like,
there's an SCP that does that, though, isn't it? Like the one that's in the basement.
The voice, yes, and that's a cater class, but that's the voice one. It doesn't transform to people you know, but it.
No, I know it's a monster, but that's kind of spooky as shit. That's like when you're playing the game, it's just like, D class, come over here, and it's like you think it's an actual person, but no, it's a fucking monster.
Yeah, and they'll mimic anything. They'll be like, they'll even mimic the sounds of like someone screaming for help or even the baby crying. Like these, and they're also hive mind esque. And if you read into the SCP entries of that one SCP, it is scarier. It's very, very, very scary. Like, even one of them escapes, it's essentially another world almost. So yeah, and it's very, very spooky. But that's why I love SCP. SCP is like, it just has this world of its own things, and there are different YouTube channels that do know how to make the SCP universe feel a lot more fuller. They like connecting things and even having their own little fan theories in there. It's nice. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, let's go actually wrap up. We actually are over an hour here. So thank you so much for watching and listening to the DKM Podcast. As you guys know, you can watch us on YouTube. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe or join even our Discord server. We would love to have you on as our community. You could also listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Anchor. We're still working on getting it on iTunes. And we're just going to go ahead and wrap this up real quick because I actually got to go let my cat out. You guys have a good one. Stay safe. And remember, stay safe out there. You guys have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.